Hi, welcome to this episode of Industry Voice. And today I have Andrew Correll and David Perez on with us from InsurTech Austin, ATX. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good, Jeff. Thanks for having us.
Great, Jeff. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is have our audience learn about your community and then the startup that you guys built for your community. You guys were actually one of the earliest adopter of building an InsurTech community, so I thought that was super cool. I had Stacy Brown on this podcast. I had David Gritz on this podcast. They built out Hartford, they built out New York, and Austin is a tech hub by itself these days. A lot of talent from everywhere from Chicago, New York to California come in town, and InsurTech is a growing community in Austin. So for our audience. I like for them to hear your personal story of how'd you guys get started and how'd you guys meet each other, and when did the idea popped up?
I'll kick it off, Andrew,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I was working for an independent agency here in Austin, and had heard about a meetup that was happening. A gentleman named Miguel Fernandez had organized just a regular meetup on meetup.com. Got curious about the intersection of tech and insurance, and so went to go check it out. Mostly a bunch of guys getting together, having a beer or two, talking about different aspects of tech and development and design, integration, and trying to infuse that with insurance, but very tech focused. So that was my intro to the organization, and it was really just a meetup at the time. Eventually, started to attend a few times and was trying to figure out, like, okay, hey, if I'm going to be away from my family and from business and business development, like, what else is there out there? Who do I want to meet? And so started helping organize some of the panels, like, hey, what do I want to learn about? I'm really interested in, okay, how do you start a company? How do you get fundraising? How do you iterate once you've created something? And so we started organizing these panels over time of insurtechs that were in the Austin area, investors that were in the area, big carriers that were in the area. And so just started kind of bringing all that together. And that's when Andrew got in and I got introduced. So I'll let you take it from there, Andrew.
Yeah. So very, very similar story to Dave as far as coming to InsurTech ATX. So, just to kind of level set, like David mentioned, like the meetup itself, like the community itself started way back in, I think, 2016. So Miguel, being a startup founder in Austin, wanted to build out more of a community. He wanted to get to know who was doing InsurTech in Austin, and so he created this meetup. So I came across it about 2 years later. I believe it was back in like 2018. There was a conference in town in Austin. I was living in Austin at the time, still do. But yeah, back then it was like the Internet of Insurance or something like that. They're having a conference, and I saw that the kickoff event was like being put on by this group, InsurTech ATX. I was like, well, that's great, because at the time I was doing insurance underwriting for tech startups. So, there was a lot of insurance and technology going on. I was like, oh, this is my kind of people. And yeah, so I attended that event and just kept showing up. And yeah, like fast forward to, just at the kind of start of the pandemic in 2020. Miguel reached out to Dave and he's like, look, I feel like I've kind of came to the end of my run shepherding the group. Feel like there could be some new voices involved. What do you and Dave kind of feel about kind of taking over the group? And I can't speak for Dave, but I would imagine, like, I know I was honored, and Dave's still here with me, so I think he was too. But yeah, like we could spend a ton of time talking about like the difficulties of keeping a community together during a global pandemic, especially one that is rooted in kind of face-to-face interaction and, you know, networking and things like that. But yeah, I think like really where it kind of comes in is, you know, we're passionate about technology and insurance, and more so just like bringing people together. Jeff, like you mentioned, in Austin, there's a lot of insurance, there's a lot of technology, and you know, we thought it was a great opportunity to build programming and knowledge around that subject.
You guys first launched Takeover from Miguel. Who were some of your earlier sponsors?
Oh gosh, like mostly it was a community run type deal. I mean, some of the original backers that are still with us today, Andy Priestman from Cover Desk, he was, you know, it was truly a community. It was like a mutual effort, you know, mutual insurance almost, you know, like, you know, I'll kick in for this event, or hey, why don't you guys come over to my office and, you know, we'll host it in the conference room. So Andy Priestman, Cover Desk, John Hatcher, you know, those folks, you know, were kind of with us from the beginning, saw the potential. And yeah, it was just kind of like a month-to-month deal. You know, you'd have people kick in for drinks and refreshments, offering up office space. You know, so it was a really kind of grassroots effort. And it wasn't until, gosh, a little over a year ago that we started really thinking of like, okay, well, what's the next level? Like what's the next evolution of InsurTech ATX? You know, how do we want to make this sustainable? Because, you know, as great as it was, you know, like doing it month to month, just it made sustainability, you know, kind of like more difficult. You know, it's like we have to do this, you know, every month, you know, we're kind of starting from scratch. And the awesome thing is that, you know, once we started, you know, reaching out to folks in the community on, hey, we want to make this more of a, you know, an annual thing, a more sustainable community. You know, we had tons and tons of interest from folks, you know, near and wide. I think like our coolest stories, like where you wouldn't think of it, but InsurTech ATX is like a truly international community in the sense that, you know, we've had a sponsor from London, you know, shout out Coltech Global. They're a global staffing firm. You know, they have a presence here in Austin. Nibble Group is one of our first annual sponsors. They're based in Argentina. You know, their CEO happened to be in Austin, you know, doing some business development activities stateside. And he stumbled onto our event. He was like, hey, you know, what's going on in the area tonight? And just happened to be one of our events. And so we hit it off. And McGlinchey Stafford, they're a regulatory law firm based out of New Orleans, but huge presence in Austin. You know, they're our second annual sponsor. And yeah, so you know, we've got some stuff up our sleeve for the future, but yeah, it's really cool to kind of see how this has evolved and how the community's really dove in on making this a reality.
I'm a big fan of Austin. I go there sometime, travel, decompress, get away. We even do like a work vacation for a week.
Yeah.
Austin have the zip lining thing, which is pretty fun through Lake Travis.
Well,
I love for you guys to do like an InsurTech event for getaways at the Lake Travis zip lining.
oh man, I got to write that one down.
Maybe finish off with some Franklin barbecue, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now we're
Um,
talking.
So
Yeah.
so how often do you guys have events now? You know, before you said it was month to month, doing hourly, like doing like happy hours. So
I'll take that one.
how often do
We
you guys have
still
the
do, we still have a monthly cadence, January through October. We don't really do a whole lot in November, December, just because we typically get together the third Thursday of the month. And so, you know, that just falls in the holidays, and there's so many other events going on that we just don't want to compete. And so, you know, we typically have a cadence of maybe like a happy hour and then a panel. And then we have over the years, we've had larger events where we have like a multi-hour or half day roll into a happy hour type panel. And then we also have a showcase, startup showcase event as well. And so those are kind of our events that we sprinkle in, try to mix them up over the months. but really try to be deliberate about, maybe a particular theme, or in the past it's been really, really tech heavy. Like, hey, for example, we had an event at Zebra, and so we had the chief product folks that were talking about the product and how they're iterating, and we'd have that in their office, and with some kind of share their growing pains and stuff like that. Or we went to the USAA design labs here in Austin a few years ago, and we listened to design and how they're the color of a button, the shape of a button, like what types of clicks, how many clicks you get off, what type of person clicks on that button based on the color, the design, the font, the size, etc. Things that are pretty granular. And then we kind of move over into sales. Hey, who's your target market? Who was your target market at the beginning, and who is it now, and how has it iterated over time? And those are just examples of kind of how we move through and how we design programming. This last year, I would say it was very MGA focused. How do you build an MGA? And then we coupled that with McGlinchey on the regulatory side. They had a pretty big symposium in April of this year, where they had, it was a multi-hour event and a happy hour afterward, but broke it into how do you start an agency? What are the regulatory issues with creating an InsurTech type company? And then there was a few breakout sessions that were very specific into subsectors of the insurance business. But those are some examples of how we design like the content on an annual basis. But honestly, some people's favorite MO is just grabbing a beer at there's a brewery here that's pretty centralized at Holdout Brewing. Is just getting together and having a beer and just having no agenda. And so that's how we have orchestrated most of the content. And one other thing I think that's pretty cool, and then Andrew, you jump into, but we've had founder dinners, which I think is pretty cool. We'll have it at a pretty nice restaurant here in town, and it's invite only, and we want the InsurTech founders to get together and have a place to just where they can talk. I felt like that was something that I was missing in the insurance business. I started my agency in 2016, and I feel like everybody's a competitor, so I don't want to share too much, and I don't think that's the right mentality to have necessarily. I think more collaborative environment where you can actually like ask somebody, hey, what growing pains are you going through? What issues are you dealing with? Where are you getting your talent from? Like whatever the issue of the day is, let's talk about it and get it in a format where people can kind of share ideas and ultimately help each other, which I think is the important piece of that, is just get together, talk about issues, and then help each other with them.
What are some of the startup InsurTech company based out of Austin? So I'm just going through the list in my head. You guys have Steadily over there, right?
Steadily, Loop, Hippo, yep. Zebra. I don't know if they qualify as a startup anymore. They're pretty far along, but at the time they were a startup.
Active Prospects.
Yep.
You said US Innovation Lab. Who else?
Yeah, we've got Loop. We've got
Loop.
Yeah, we've got a Shirley. So it's founded by David Carpentier. I don't know if Sigo Seguros counts as an Austin startup. I count them as an Austin startup because I love what Nestor's doing, but I know he splits time between New Jersey and here. Their first state that they launched their auto insurance product was in Texas. So I like to claim them as an InsurTech ATX friend and member.
Varuna is another up and coming.
Yeah.
They've just announced a pretty significant amount of funding.
Yeah.
And Roamly would be another one. I mean, I think the cool thing about some of these Romley's a good example. Like, they're part of an RV sharing company called Outdoorsy, and they couldn't find insurance for themselves, or when they did, it became too expensive, and so they just created their own insurance company. And nobody knows. I don't want to say nobody, but it's like a secondary thought, and it's so easy for them to be like, "Hey, here's a problem. Okay, this is too expensive, or it doesn't cover what we need it to. Let's just create our own program." And that's a good example of us being a secondary market, or Austin being a secondary market for a lot of these insurtechs that nobody knows about. So I don't know, but pretty cool story to have them here in Austin.
Have you guys ever done like event hosted at one of the bigger carrier? Let's just say, did you guys ever reach out to Hippo and do one at their campus?
Yeah, we've actually, like, Hippo's been an awesome friend and member of ours. We've hosted, I want to say, 2 or 3 events at their new space in downtown Austin. Cody, who runs reinsurance through Hippo and Spinnaker, they've been awesome. We, like Dave mentioned, we've been to USA's Design Lab here in downtown Austin. We've had an event out at Texas Mutual's headquarters, big work comp writer here in the state. And even outside of that, we get like quite a bit of our membership. It's a smattering. We've got traditional insurance folks, carrier reps, underwriters, agents. Got folks in the reinsurance space, on the tech side, MGAs. So Austin, like, we find that there is just a really, really good mix of people solving different problems. But the carrier's been awesome and really supportive of that. They want to open their doors, they want to see what's going on, how they can find ways to collaborate, and if nothing else, just support the community around them.
I'm just curious, while we're doing this conversation, how many people is in insurance industry in Austin area?
No, I have no idea.
I added Austin and San Antonio, and this is just the keyword insurance on LinkedIn. Take a guess what the search result is.
Oh man, if I had to guess, probably 25, 30,000. If I had to guess between San Antonio and Austin, especially San Antonio.
Yeah, if you add San
David?
Antonio, I'm gonna go with 20.
Okay. According to LinkedIn, right? There's a lot of people that's not on LinkedIn, of course. According to LinkedIn, the people who are insurance professional on LinkedIn in San Antonio, Austin is 62,000.
Whoa,
62.
Holy moly.
Current and former.
Yeah,
I believe it. I believe it.
If you throw in the InsurTechs, if you throw in personal lines, if you throw in carrier employees, I could see where it could creep up there pretty high. I could see that.
Watch out, Hartford. Watch out.
Want to know people who
San Antonio's coming up,
recognize themselves as InsurTech in those community?
No, I do. Oh, do I want to know? Yes, I do.
274 people curated their profile on LinkedIn as InsurTech. They put the keyword InsurTech in, and that come up on search results.
Dang. Yeah.
I am curious
I think that's
now
interesting.
what that numbers is for Texas. Thank you for watching this video. Now a quick message from our sponsor, Mav.
Thanks, Jeff. I want to let you all in on a secret that top producing agencies don't want you to know about. If you're in P&C insurance, you know firsthand how much you're getting squeezed by your call center. It's becoming less predictable and less economically profitable to scale. But here's the thing. The top producing agencies making over $100 million are not running their leads through a human-based call center. They're running them through an AI expert like Mav to qualify, quote, and hand deliver the highest intent qualified leads to your agents. Mav takes care of the back and forth, having unlimited 24/7 conversations with your leads that are personal and relevant so you can scale to the moon. Ready to ditch your call center and 10x your agency? We're giving the listeners of InsurTech $15,000 worth of credit to try Mav. Head to hiremav.com/InsurTech to claim this offer.
Imagine it's massive. I mean, between Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, like there's a ton of stuff going on, and it's cool too, because like you start getting into like the real niche stuff, you know, like Houston, massive oil and gas presence. So, you know, you're gonna see a lot of that commercial development. Dallas, I mean, it's just, yeah, there's a ton of stuff going on. And even in the InsurTech space, I know that you know, we've got Insured Mine up in Dallas Fort Worth area. They continue to grow and doing awesome stuff. Yeah, it's a neat community for sure.
Total search results in Texas insurance professional is 283,000, 6.7% of all Americans who are in insurance.
Sounds about right.
6.7.
Do you guys do anything with the Capital Factory? They're based out of Austin.
You know, we have in the past, Capital Factory does a lot of startups, but they're not necessarily as focused on InsurTech as we are. You know, we've got a lot of friends over there, and we've got advisors who are also advisors over there, who we've got good relationships with. But we haven't had any like official partnerships or anything like that with Capital Factory.
I'm just curious. It'd be kind of cool to use their maybe use their HQ for one of your meetup. You know.
Oh yeah, the Voltron room is incredible. Been to a couple events out there. It's snazzy.
Yeah, and we've got so our host for most of our events in 2024 has been Bank of California, which has been awesome because they're in Indeed Tower. So beautiful space, all the AV you can want.
Oh yeah,
and they're hosting us for free. And
wait, Indeed Tower is in Austin?
Yeah, I
did not know that part.
There's a giant building with Indeed on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been awesome, and they're a huge supporter of the startup community here in Austin and abroad. So yeah, it's a perfect match from that perspective.
Shout out to Steven DePasquale from Bank of California for hosting us.
So what's on the agenda for 2025?
Oh man,
what events do you guys have down the road? You guys
Dave and I actually just met about that last week at another Austin local favorite, Juan in a Million. And so we had some enchiladas and some menudo, and we're chopping it up, thinking about next year. You know, one thing that we kind of like focused on is, you know, continuing to refine our vision and our value prop for the community, right? Because I mean, we're nothing without our community members and the businesses and the professionals that we support. You know, Dave hit on it earlier. It's like, you know, we're asking a lot of people. You know, this is a nice to have for a lot of folks. You know, you're taking them away from their families, their businesses, their professional obligations, and so we have to really step it up when we ask for their time and what we show up with. So what we've learned over this last year is that, you know, there's folks have different needs, and they change from time to time. Sometimes they're in the mood for, you know, formal networking and you know, having somebody, you know, really dive deep on a topic, and others, they just want to catch up with their buds in the industry and see, you know, what's going on. So, you know, we're looking at it kind of doing a little bit of both, you know, and really kind of doubling down on some things that have worked for us in the past, which is more kind of like long form events. So we're looking to, you know, we've got the second annual symposium with McGlinchey next year in April. Huge success last year, and I think we're going to look to do a couple additional events, kind of maybe, you know, half day type deals where we focus on a particular topic and bring in a couple of different panels to talk on more niche areas of that subject. So yeah, I think continue to see more of us. And you know, fingers crossed. Like I think one of our biggest kind of hopes for this community, I had talked about, like, Austin's this real interesting area where there's a ton of, you know, institutional insurance knowledge and a ton of technology focused individuals. And what we want to see, you know, coming in the next year or so is we want to see like a new startup spun out of our community, you know, kind of a product of bringing somebody who's got this like awesome idea that they want to pursue, but maybe don't have the technical knowledge to do it. And then meeting up with, you know, somebody that has that technical background that is equally passionate about solving that. So yeah, we'll continue to host events and keep bringing folks like that together. And, you know, hopefully this time next year, we have some neat announcements on that.
Dave, anything you want to add?
I would say that, you know, shameless plug. I mean, we're always looking for sponsors, of course. You know, and I think along with that is, what does the community want? So we've just got to listen to what the community is looking for. And some people, you know, want to see more like, hey, you know, I'm really struggling with hiring people, and we've been able to make some of those connections. We've directly been involved with like, hey, so and so just left this you know, technology company, and they're looking for something back in the insurance business, or they're in the insurance business but they want more InsurTech experience. Can you make some connections here? Can you introduce me to this company over there? And so we've kind of been involved with that. We have no desire to be technical recruiters or recruiters at all, nor do we take a fee for doing that. We just want to be helpful. But I think listening to what people are asking, example being that MGA scenario last year, we had a ton of people asking, hey, if you were going to start an MGA, who would you talk to? Hey, who gives you capacity? They're asking very specific questions. And so, you know, just listening, we're like, okay, well, we've gotten an influx of questions on this. Why don't we set up a panel? Why don't we set up some investors and talk about why they took money, or how they took money, or how they went about taking money? And so, again, it's just listening to the community and what they want. So having said that, continuing to have that mix of panels, McGlinchey Symposium, great sponsors who want to pour into the community and have a presence here and want to get their name out there. What I'd like to see, frankly, is a little bit more involvement from the community to attend some of the events. You know, sometimes we're asking people to bug out at 4:30 from their regular jobs, and you know, or sometimes it's at 5:30 or whatnot. Sometimes it's at 1:30, and you know, so we're trying to find that right time frame to get people downtown. As you probably know, you've been here enough, traffic is awful. So if you're up north or out west or whatnot, we used to have events all around town, and you never knew where it was going to be. But you know, we found that providing some consistency on the date, the time, and the location is helpful. So that's been pretty good. But we'd like to see more folks just aware that it exists, and getting involved with what we've got going on. We could talk about our two favorite events. So other than the McGlinchey panel, the startup showcase was awesome. Yeah, and we had that at Hippo. Andrew led that one. It was great. We had 5 startups come share what they're working on, how the crowd can help, and it was a great event because it really embodies the spirit of InsurTech ATX. You know, people are building things. People are not perfect. They need help in certain areas, but there are also some very, very brilliant minds solving complex problems in a industry that's can be pretty dated at times and stubborn to adapt. And so you know, I think it's a great event that brings a lot of people from all facets of the insurance and technology and InsurTech industries together to kind of check in, see what people are doing and how they're going for it. So I'm excited about that one for next year too.
Yeah.
Have you guys thought about having like economic development people come on? Like when you go to like Harvard, events, they have Yukon economic development people, from the state and county and city, all there, like mayors. They talk about the great thing that's going on. Have you guys thought about that? Having more of a cooperation with the states, because you guys have more insurance professionals than Harvard.
To be straight with you, we have not considered that. The closest we've gotten to that is reaching out to the agency side, as well as ITC, Insurance Council of Texas, to just kind of be aware of what we provide and where we provide it. And we are we're open to any partnership, collaboration.
Yeah.
They were great because their base is mostly traditional agents, not technology-based agents. And I think when you look at economic development, Austin sells itself a lot. So, we're always going to be ambassadors for folks. Like we had a life insurance company, we won't say the name, but that was looking to relocate from Canada. And they happened to be in town looking at office space, trying to figure out if it makes sense, how much does it cost, what's the area like? And it happened to be during one of our happy hours. And so, it's situations like that. Loop is another good example. John Henry's in New York. They were looking at different areas to try and figure out where to put their company, what makes sense. And I think a lot of companies are trying to do the same thing. Like, hey, we don't have to be in California. We don't have to be in LA. We don't have to be in the Bay to create a viable InsurTech. We can be in a number of different places like Hartford or Austin or New York or a number of other places.
Yeah.
I don't know, Andrew, what do you think about that?
Yeah, love the Silicon Hills.
Yeah, Silicon Hills, yeah. But we are definitely open to any collaboration that any of these organizations want to have. Like you said, there's 274 that identify in their LinkedIn profile as InsurTech. I'm sure there's more out there. They just need to, kind of know about us. And, again, a lot of these folks are just building, heads down, building things. And so they don't know, and sometimes when we ask, we're like, hey, would you come speak? And they're like, our company's small. We've only raised 10 million. We haven't made it yet. It's like, just the fact that you started and just the fact that you're InsurTech and you've raised 10 million, like most people are trying to get to all of those stages or want to get to those stages at some point. Surely you've got something valuable to share. And it's interesting. Most times they're like, I wouldn't be a great speaker. I don't really have much to share. I mean, we haven't really done anything yet. And I disagree wholeheartedly with people who say things like that.
Well, I got a couple ideas. I might throw your way, offline when we get off this call. But I just, watch some of the local events that get put up. ATX is such a great location. You guys have a really of a home core advantage. I think you guys should poke at some more opportunities. Thank you for all your support to our channel. Here is a quick word from our sponsor. Please click on the link below in the comment section to sign up for a demo with Traq AI.
What if your insurance sales conversations could work harder for you? Meet Traq, your AI-powered conversation intelligence partner. Traq automatically captures and analyzes every customer interaction, providing instant call summaries, risk analysis, and AI-driven coaching insights. Say goodbye to manual note-taking and hello to more selling time. Traq handles the admin work while you handle the revenue. Fully integrated with your favorite platforms. Plus, get custom AI analysis tailored to your unique business needs. Transform your sales team's performance with Traq. Visit Traq.ai today.
Click the link in the description below to schedule a demo with Traq today.
In Austin, like it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, it's a massive community. Like we've had some like newer members who we got introduced to them because they were starting their own InsurTech ATX, like an InsurTech organization in Austin. And some of like our members are like, hey, like have you met with these folks? And, you know, we got to talking, kicked off, and it was just like, oh, I had no idea that this was going on. And, you know, we are, you know, like we count our membership, you know, probably like 5, 6, 700 people in and around Austin, and just maybe folks who are coming through that check out our events. And it's just a really good, humble reminder that is like, as much as we pour into this, like, it is really hard to build awareness in a city like Austin, just because there's so much going on. You know, folks are heads down, and so it's just a reminder to us. It's like, hey, we still have more work to do, to continue building out the community and really just get the word out, because it's just a good reminder that people are like hungry for this. That they were so moved. They're like, we're gonna start our own organization, and it's like, hey, like, good news, like we have one, and it's up and running, and yeah, it's been awesome. Just to like continue to build through that, and some of those like some of those growing pains, you know. Been around now for like 8 years, and we're still getting the word out. And so that's just a testament to like everything's going on in Austin. But yeah, shout out to the community. Memorable stuff along the way.
Where are some of your biggest growing pain? You said growing pain, so
Oh
I'm
yeah. Oh
curious.
gosh, we could spend an hour on that. Part of it, like Dave alluded to, like just finding the consistency. You know, finding, like, carving out a niche so that folks remember. Competing for people's attention. You know, when we were moving off of the meetup platform onto just kind of like our own like WordPress, you know, Eventbrite type setup. It was like, so I don't know if you're familiar with Meetup. Getting like the actual email list out of Meetup is not possible, right? You don't export it. So we had to kind of like work that from scratch, and get in getting folks back on that cadence. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't see anything from you guys, didn't know you had an event coming up. So, you know, like having that clear thing, because you know, people are busy, and if you're not able to kind of get in front of them, to remind that, like, hey, we've got something going on this month, or hey, we like the date changed or the venue changed. So that's been a growing pain. And then just like staying relevant. You know, we coming out of the pandemic, like we had talked to our members, and they're like, yeah, we just want to we want to get back in front of each other. You know, we want to just have that like face to face interaction. And so we did a lot of happy hours coming out of that. And then we started to notice over time that, you know, we were getting a lot of like new, like first time attendees, but we weren't seeing a lot of repeat folks. And it just kind of got us thinking, it's like, hey, you know, like maybe this is great. Like this setup is great for first timers, just to kind of learn what's going on. But like to really build lasting community, there was just there was something more needed. And then that's when we started to get back more to like more serious formal programming, having experts come in and talk about topics. And lo and behold, we started to see those repeat, that core constituency showing up month after month. So yeah, like those are some of like the more top of mind ones. But yeah, and then also like, you know, this is all me and Dave and our marketing, our head of marketing, Marie. So it's like a 3-person operation. This is like probably our second or third hobby, you know, when you come to think about it. So like just growing through the time and attention that it takes, which is why we're like so thankful to our sponsors, that allow us to like kind of put on this stuff, because without them, you know, like it would just be Dave and I like reaching into our piggy banks, and you know, but no, it's been great.
That's ultimately what it had been. You know, you talked about sponsors in the early days.
Yeah.
I would have everybody at my office downtown, and then I would pay for the drinks and just be like, oh, my company Lumen's a sponsor. I'm just writing the check, you know. And so we are thankful for those sponsors who are coming on board. And we operate like a nonprofit, but we're not a nonprofit. We just don't want to file all the paperwork. But the way that we were doing it in the past was just so time consuming, because every month we'd be like, hey, who wants to sponsor? Hey, do you want to speak? You know, so we're coordinating speakers, sponsors, venues, and then we're moving it around different times. So now it's all consistent. We moved to that annual sponsor model. So, you know, the big checks come in, and we're not worried about a monthly check every, you know, trying to figure out who's sponsoring what. And hounding them for the money or to open up a tab or whatever the case is. Just get it done, get it sponsored, get it consistent. And so I would say that's kind of the biggest, I don't want to say growing pain, but like administrative burden that's been lifted.
Yeah.
And that allows us to focus on listening to the members, figuring out what we want, what do we want to have, and then creating that programming for next year. And so we've been reaching out to some of our sponsors already for next year. We haven't reached out to our members yet, but if any members listening to this, we do want them to like drop us a line, you connect with us on LinkedIn, drop us a DM or reach out to us via email, david@InsurTechATX.com or Andrew@InsurTechATX.com, and let us know like, hey, have you considered this? What about that? What about, this, or, hey, I'd be happy to open up my office. Those things are pretty cool. I think another example of something cool we did in the past, and Miguel put all this together, but Dig In was in town, and they had all the execs from all the big carriers that were in town for the conference. And then we set up, instead of going to one place and having all the startups like showcase a little 5-minute presentation, bust them around and went to their office. And so they got to go to a warehouse where they're playing ping pong and got all the, the startup vibe and stuff like that, kind of busting them around to see what their offices look like and doing a little roadshow, if you will.
Yeah.
Little things like that. Do you want to do that? Do you want to see it when people come to town? Is that what they want? We're open to all that information and figuring out what makes sense for us, mostly Marie, to organize. And so the members will be hearing from us about upcoming opportunities to get together and what they want to see in 2025. And that's ultimately what we do during this kind of downtime for InsurTech ATX, is reach out to the sponsors, reach out to the members, figure out what works, what doesn't work. Andrew and I, like you said, we were workshopping this last week on what 2025 is going to look like. More to come on what the programming will look like in 2025. But we do have McGlinchey already locked in for their symposium again. They had such a great response and turnout that they want to do it again.
Have you guys ever thought about having like a tour bus on the Lake Travis, the duck boat tour?
Oh, the duck boat.
Like add that
maybe
to
a
your
bat
founders
tour.
event. So like
Do the bats.
yeah, the duck boat tour, and then add the zip lining to it. So this way that you kill that in 3 hours.
Oh man, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Get out those waivers, we're insurance people, but man,
Yeah,
we like that party.
Jeff, there's so much to do in Austin. I mean, we've got UT football, F1, Austin FC. We've got South by Southwest. We've got ACL. I mean, there's so much going on in Austin at any given time, and there's endless opportunities to do all kinds of cool stuff in Austin. We just got to figure out what people want to do. I think connected claims, that one's coming up soon, right, Andrew?
Yeah, connected claims, and this month. But I think we just heard from Jeff what he wants to do. Now he's got my interest peaked on ziplining.
I got some
ideas. You could do a barbecue tour. I mean, you could go to Lockhart. You could get a bus and go to all kinds of places around Austin to get
brisket
barbecue.
For the brisket.
You could do a breakfast taco contest. We're kind of known for breakfast tacos. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you could do. The question is, who do we want to come in to do that? So maybe my suggestion for you, Jeff, is if you get all the InsurTechs together and we want to go road show together, that would be
happy hosts.
Hey, we're happy to host, and between the three of us, we could put together a pretty good itinerary of doing the boat tour, the breakfast tacos, the barbecue, and the zip line, maybe even a concert at Moody. There's all kinds of opportunities to do stuff here.
And then you can like end your day with, there's a place called Oyster Bar, right?
Yeah, well, there's several oyster bars here in town, but I think you're talking about Clark's Oyster Bar.
Well, it's 6 floors. It's a bar that's 6 floors and overlooking entire Lake Travis, overlooking the
Oyster
dam.
Bar.
Oh man,
You
I'm not
know,
familiar with that one.
I'm not familiar with that one. Again,
Mhm.
there's so much out there.
I've been there. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but for some reason, oyster is just like it's in my head. And I was like, this is like
You're
one of the
talking
most
about the
beautiful view.
Oasis. You're talking about the
Oasis. There you
Oasis.
go.
Yes.
Yes. Oasis
Oh, okay.
bar.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
I mean
that's
it's a little bit
that's a
of a
staple.
drive from downtown, but for sure. I mean, there's
That's-
so much to do. I mean, honestly,
Their food
there's so
sucks.
much.
Their food is very average, but you can never beat that view. It's just the most ridiculous views.
Yeah, I guess you can't be perfect at everything, but I understand their drinks and the views are pretty good. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so much good, there's so many great places to eat.
So
Michelin
many.
just came out with their I think they released the 2025 Michelin ratings for Austin. I haven't looked at it yet, but there's the usual suspects on there. So there's high-end fine dining, all the way down to like breakfast tacos, old school classic places that you can go. I mean, if somebody wanted to set something up here in Austin, we could definitely point them in the right direction. And I think that's like the One World City, was it the
Yeah, One World
One
City.
City World Tour?
Yeah, One City World Tour.
With the glove box guys.
Yeah.
You know, they said, hey, we're coming to town. Do you want to set some folks up to be on our panel? And they had what? They had a DeLorean. They were dressed up in
Yeah.
astronaut costumes. I mean,
Yeah, that was
when they
Bradley and
came to
Scott.
town,
Yeah.
we got a panel going with some of our startups to come. Steadily was on that panel. Quotewell was on the panel.
Yeah.
I was on the panel. You know, there's plenty of representation that can come in town when people do things like that. When these conferences do come in town, Andrew and I usually get an invite, and we're happy to attend and represent InsurTech ATX. But a lot of times they ask us to be on panels, and we're happy to, you know, host those and facilitate those discussions. Those are more good examples of just getting us involved, trying to figure out like, hey, you know, who's on the claim side that needs to be here. And sometimes we get free tickets that we can just give out to our member base, which is another good benefit of being part of the community. But we don't know that if they haven't been to an event, or, you know, we don't know about them. So more awareness, but that's where you come in, right, Jeff? You've got how many followers on LinkedIn, and where are you on the power rankings for InsurTech influencer? I think you're up there, right?
I'm up there. I'm just trying to figure out who made that ranking, but you know, we're growing our business page right now. I think as of this recording, we're at 3223
Nice.
or
Well
3423. I have to go back and look on our page following, and I have around 32,000 followers on LinkedIn and 5,000 on Facebook.
Very
But
nice.
you know, I'm trying to bring attention to you guys, like, you know, the purpose of this podcast, just bringing attention to all of our people who are in the community creating contents. I call ourselves the creator media, the creator community. So
Very nice. I like it.
yeah.
Yeah. This has been great.
Excellent.
So
Well, let
guys,
us know when
thank
you're ready
you,
to come do the barbecue tour, the breakfast taco tour, and sounds like you're all in on zip lining. So let's you know, set it up and come on down.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the podcast, and I'm gonna give you guys some off the episode ideas, and then maybe you know, the next time we can talk about it.
All ears. Sounds good.
Yeah, folks are interested in learning more. Find us at, you know, we're on LinkedIn. Also, our website, InsurTechATX.com. And yeah, again, shout out to our sponsors, Nibble Group and McGlinchey, and everyone who's invested time and energy into the InsurTech ATX community. We're appreciative.